Good evening, everyone. I apologize for the delay. It's Robert G. Green, CEO of Pre-Post Game. Really quick, I was traveling home after my meeting, and I was trying to beat traffic. It's raining, and that wasn't going to work out, so I stopped off at a remote location to do this podcast. So again, my name is Robert G. Green. This podcast is presented to you by the African American Athlete, hosted by Ricky Hampton and Mr. Michael Robertson. Again, every Tuesday night, you can check them out at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And they talk about the sports regarding the African American athlete, the history, the past, and also the future, and how we're going to go about making a difference and changes for the actual athletes. Again, I want to make sure the live streaming is going well. I didn't even post to get things up there to let you guys know how you can follow me. But like I said, my name is Robert G. Green, CEO of Pre-Post Game. You can follow me at the Players Rep 1. You can also follow me and my company at the Pre-Post Game. How you doing, Mr. Hampton? Just want to make sure the live stream is going well. I apologize for the delay with the weather. So, like I said, at the end of the day, we're going to talk about March Madness 2018. We're also going to talk about the NFL Draft to take place April 25th to 28th in Dallas, Texas. So this podcast is to be interactive. Like I said, again, if I can, you can actually either type questions in a comment box, or you can also let Mr. Hampton know. He's going to basically be try to take your questions so we can get your questions answered thus far. So it's a lot of things going on. This might run a little past 7 o'clock, so let's get started. I'm going to go in order. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the NCAA 2018 March Madness, if you will, first. So from a business perspective, these are not things you're going to see on shows such as ESPN First Take, where we debate things that's already to be known or factual. It's more so inside factual business from a player's perspective, and also what you should know and understand how these things are taking place. What I tell people from the beginning regarding sports in 2018 is, one, that sports is so short-lived that you don't have time to sit back and try to figure out what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, especially if you are a parent or an athlete in this business. You hear terms such as trust the process all the time, but the reality is in the business of sport, you don't have time to trust the process. The moment that someone is willing to pay to watch your son or daughter play a sport, you are now become a professional. They have become a professional. Sometimes that athlete may be 12, 13 years old. However, that person is trying to manipulate or coerce you or basically engage you to make a decision based off sports, where to go, why to go there, and they're going to be compensated for it. So you really want to start to understand and prepare yourselves, and that's what we do at Pre-Post Game. We're here to educate and empower, protect the athlete and the family's best interests alone. So with all that being said, got that out the way. 2018. San Antonio, Texas is where the Final Four is going to be held. You got 4 teams. You got Michigan, University of Michigan. You have Loyola Chicago. You have Kansas, and you have Villanova. Again, in the terms of sports, a lot of people call that for the teams such as Michigan or particularly Villanova and Kansas, you call that chalk. Fact of the matter is with Loyola Chicago, that's termed the Cinderella. In essence, Michigan can be considered a Cinderella as well, but at the same time, based off the business side in the NCAA, where you have teams such as Duke and Kentucky and again, obviously Louisville with the investigation didn't even make it to the tournament this year. A lot of revenue was lost regarding how they felt like they was going to make their money back. Many of you guys now that are watching the tournament heard of the story from Loyola Chicago with a nun or a person named Miss Jean. And essentially, I talk about all the time, sports is not a game, it's all business. And how the NCAA has no shame no matter who. They don't discriminate on who they're going to exploit, when they're going to exploit them. You could be a 16-year-old kid coming out of urban area. You can be a 15-year-old kid coming from rural America. Or you could, in this case, you could be a 95-plus-year-old woman who's just sitting in a wheelchair minding her business, trying to support her actual team. Now, what people don't understand about what has happened when Mrs. Jean is given the NCAA the rights to license her name, and basically now they created bobble dolls, bobbleheads, socks, T-shirts for revenue to be sold. At the same time, when Mrs. Jean gave them the right to do it, she also gave every other human being in America the right to make a T-shirt and sell it on open market value. And once again, everybody can benefit off of the kids from Loyola Chicago, except for the kids of Loyola Chicago. And it's a matter of days, if you will. Once Loyola Chicago wins or loses the national championship in the Final Four, you can bet your check that the coach will be gone, taking a job somewhere else off the backs of those actual kids. And whether it's a Final Four T-shirt or hat or even a championship ring, it's not going to amount to the amount of time that's been put in to literally get these kids and get this coach to the point where now he can basically benefit off of their hard work and labor. So once again, sport is not a game. Sports is all business. So when I talk about, again, alternatives, the mainstream media hasn't been talking about it much, but the JBA, which stands for Junior Basketball Association, was the company founded by Mr. LeVar Ball. For those of you guys who don't know who LeVar Ball is, he's a father of three basketball players that played at either high school or collegiate level for a certain amount of time. LeVar Ball, his oldest son, is playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. He was drafted last year, the first pick of the NBA draft. His second oldest son was going to the University of UCLA University, when the young man was in China and was accused or stole something. And literally the school wanted to suspend the kid indefinitely, where his father withdrew him from the school. With that being said, when that happened, that young man went over and played overseas with his younger brother, who was also drawn out of high school to basically pursue his dreams to play basketball. Now, many people ask me all the time, like, what are my thoughts on Mr. Ball and his antics? And again, I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but in particular, when you talk about these athletes and their leverage, and I tell parents and I tell athletes, in sports, your leverage comes when you're young. It does not come when you're old. It specifically comes when you're talented, healthy, and young, in that order. If you're none of the three, 2 out of the 3, or 1 out of the 3, the likelihood of your being successful in that sport is slim to none, based on how everything is done to this day and going forward. So again, the argument of that he's preventing them from getting education, the fact of the matter is, whether these young men can play basketball now and can be really good at it and make money for it, once they finish playing basketball, whatever money they got, they can still pursue their education at any time in life. However, their actual bodies cannot maintain the youth. It can't maintain the injury-free. They can't maintain the actual want and leverage that people that want to see them play basketball entail. So once again, that argument that the NCAA continues to use, one would say, and one would think that literally, if you are, when are you going to be more mature? When you're 18 and 19, or you're 24 and 25? My thought process and my proposal to the NCAA would be is to let all of those players that are playing in college now, literally let them get paid. The reason why people are coming to these games, the reason why people are paying for hotels and fly to San Antonio, is to watch these young kids play. And so when they're going to play, let them play. And then at the end of the day, once their career is over and they made some compensation, if they want to come back at 24, 25 and the NBA or the NFL didn't work out, then literally they're going to be more focused to understand that their sports career is over, and that they need to focus on the books, and now they can actually focus on getting a degree that they want, that they're passionate about, not these classes that they stick these kids in that fits into a block to basically appease the people that think that they're getting a free education. Again, to help you become the best gym teacher you could possibly be. An athlete at a Division I or Division I AA level, it's a pro business. You get up, like I said, them days are 16, 17 hours a day at times. And most people who haven't never done it don't really understand the magnitude or the longevity of what it takes to get up every day and be consistent in that. So at the end of the day, it's like you have to really understand your position in sports, your opportunity, and you have to take that opportunity when it comes for you. Because at the end of the day, like I said before, sports is not a game. It's all business. If someone is trying to get you to make a decision pertaining to the sport, you got to understand that their thought process is built off of somebody else's thought process that's going to benefit them, not necessarily you. So that don't matter if it's recruiters, it don't matter if it's the mentors from the school, it don't matter if it's high school coach, the AU coach, the showcase coaches, it's all relevant. So once again, you haven't heard about the JBA, but again, it's starting and literally is going to be going, and I believe in April in 8 cities. They're looking for 8 players in these cities, and then literally I'm looking for a total of 64 players. The actual committee that's going to be overseeing the actual players is going to be his son, LeVar Ball, Los Angeles Laker guard number 2, Earl Watson, who was a former UCLA Bruin basketball player, did great things in the NCAA tournament, and obviously Ed O'Bannon, who was the leader of the actual case against the NCAA when he basically sued the NCAA for violating the athlete's likeness and image pertaining to the video games, and it continues to push forward, and we support him in that over here pre-post game. So those are going to be the people that's going to be evaluating your talent. So again, the fact of the matter is, it's an alternative route. In essence, if you do the math, 8 players in 8 cities, and the goal is for these guys to go play overseas. If you are one of those kids, for example, say the kid that's going to Texas right now, and we know, again, at the end of the day, he's going to be a top draft lottery pick. So if anybody that wants to sit there and act like it's not happening, all those kids that was involved in the NCAA investigation right now, whether it's a young man from Arizona DeAndre Ayton. If it was the kid from Oklahoma who, for whatever reason, Oklahoma made the tournament and got knocked out, what's his name again? I forget. Trey, and then a couple other guys in general. As a matter of fact, there's a young man that played at one school that literally only played 57 minutes in the season, and he got injured, and yet now he's already out declared for the draft. So every one of those kids that was brought into the NCAA investigation about, going to school and getting education, they already going to the NBA. So really, the only people that have benefited from their time in college was the NCAA. And once again, this is the simple facts. So at the end of the day, those kids could have went and played for the JBA, made money, could have went and got exposed overseas and opened themselves up to real education, where we talk about life skills and character development, and understanding that literally, if I have an opportunity to make a living for myself in business, whether it's sports, whether it's, Trey Young, thank you, sir. Whether it's anybody has the opportunity to make an opportunity in sports and business, you got to take advantage of that. These guys get injured all the time. People talk about, insurance, which we talked about last week. You really don't understand how that really works. And at the end of the day, even the insurance policy that's put in place, it's like pennies to the dollar for what these young men will lose from the opportunity to make that money. So again, all the young men that did a one and dones, when they finish, again, you want to talk about real research and education, do research on how many of these one and dones, when they go and make, 10, 15, $20 million in the NBA, how many of them come back by the time they finish and retire to get the education from that school? How many of those schools are literally going out their way to say, hey, you know what, we made millions of dollars off you through the tournament for 2 to 3 years. Please come back and get your degree from our university for free. We just got to have you have that degree, that education. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So, like I said again, my thoughts on the NCAA this year in this tournament, once again, whether it's Jalen Rose's grandmother, who's 100 years old, now bickering with the 95-year-old nun from Loyola Chicago, is another way of exploitation of people that really don't understand what they're getting involved in. And like I said again, you talk about the actual selling of merchandise. There are people outside right now at any store, anywhere, that's basically, making money off Sister Jean. You don't hear about that. And at the end of the day, that's not what it should be about. So if anybody should be making money, once again, is those young men that's out there that got Loyola Chicago to this point where they at in the tournament. So good luck to all those teams. Again, it's unfortunate that we know at least one team, regardless of the fact, no matter what happens, is going to be changing coaches. You can mark it down, March 28, 2017. That coach will not be there going in 2019. The fact of the matter is, I don't know if those kids know or understand or figured it out yet, but when that coach tells them that he's leaving, again, the reason behind it, which is always the reason behind it, is going to be money. And then they're going to say, oh, so I got to do what's best for me and my family. So once again, it's a business. It's a pro business. Fact of the matter is that if you got, the Final Four and you got the whole March Madness, you got all these teams, you only got like 1% of these guys that are going to the NBA. And if what the NCAA was saying true about education, then the fact of the matter is that 1% of players that I mentioned, the JBA league or future league that the NBA is looking into, the G League, if those 64 players, or 8 times 8, like I said, 8 players that would go to play for the JBA versus going to the NCAA, that's the first 2 rounds of the NBA draft. The NCAA will be done. They'll be done. 64 players that will go play in another league, they will be done. And then everybody they're talking about, it's about education. We'll see how much money is to be spent, how many people will buy TV ads, how many sponsors will want to turn around and pay the NCAA millions and billions of dollars to watch a kid who's not in the top 65 of the upcoming class. I can assure you that's not going to happen. So once again, sports is not a game. Sports is all business. So like I said, good luck to those players. Again, if anybody have questions regarding the one and done rules, like I said, the NCAA and the NBA are kind of collaborating right now to try to move it along forward. But once again, whether it's the JBA or the junior NBA or any other league, what these young men need, regardless of the fact that we're talking about education, the education that athletes need is character development. They need character development. They need business management and services. A lot of these young men spend half their lives trying to become a millionaire, but really they don't even know the tax code where they might be going at. They can't add or subtract. They don't understand. They've never been taught. They don't have been given classes such as financial planning or money management. In those same universities, they're speaking in terms of education, and they know that these young men are leaving in less than 1 or 2 years. So again, setting these kids up for failure has been a practice of the NCAA way too long. And so, like I said, again, at the end of the day, oh yeah. So again, so I just heard that the JBA website crashed. Yeah, a lot of people really had enough of the NCAA's hypocrisy about what they're talking about regarding education and having the players' best interest in mind. The players that literally went through the process in such as basketball or football will all tell you if you have an opportunity to go get the money while you can do it. You can always get your education. Again, always. That's the point. There are people out here right now that spend half their lives working, 16, 17 hours a day that now have families and raise their kids and they out their house now and they still going back to get their education. At the same time, those same parents, those same people can't go out there and shoot a jump shot. They can't dunk a basketball. So at the end of the day, why would you basically allow someone else to basically benefit off your talents and at the end of the day in return for education? Actually, the smart thing to do is to go get your money while you can. And if you really that important to learn while you're going on, you can afford to get you a tutor or get you someone that can sit there next to you. You can hire us at pre-post game, and we'll teach you everything you need to know to protect yourself in the business on and off the field. So, like I said again, I'm glad to see that people are taking interest in the JBA. Like I said, I don't really necessarily condone a lot of antics of Mr. LeVar Ball, but the premise that he's on regarding giving the athletes opportunity is the most important thing. In sports, leverage comes when you're young. And that's, again, I want to say this to the parents again. If you have an athlete that you feel like they can play a sport or you want to invest time and money and energy in that sport, you got to understand all sides of it. Your side, the side that's going to come and try to persuade you to go and pay money to have your kid do certain things that really is not possible. If a guy comes and tell you that if you give me $3,000, I can make you a 5'7", 175-pound linebacker and go to Penn State. You got to verify your sources. Like I said, sports is too dangerous and too much money going involved today in 2018 to basically stick with the hate he say, she say. You got to verify who you're talking to, what they're talking about. And what I tell all these families and athletes, the things that I can share with you, the most important thing, and this applies in business principles as well, is three things. One, educate. If someone is talking to you and you basically are listening to what they're saying, are they teaching you something that you didn't know before, you wasn't sure about? And then if you wasn't sure about, are they willing to allow you to ask a question to give them more education in that? That's number one. Two, empowerment. Obviously, there's a lot of things that people aren't comfortable with and they need help and they need support and resources. And that's also something that they should not be frowned upon. But at the same time, they should be telling you how one day that you can basically take over and do these things once you learn what you've been empowered to do what's best for you. And the last thing, obviously, the most important thing in sports business is protection. There's a lot of people out there, and like I said, there's not a 15 and 16-year-old, and no disrespect, there's not an adult parent that comes out here at the end of the day that think that you can sit down with a coach at any level from a scholarship type of school, Power 5 school, Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh, Urban Meyer, you name it, those guys, you can't sit down in a living room and expect to be able to interview those guys properly and appropriately to basically protect you and your son's best interest. It just can't happen. Because one, most of the time, a lot of times, instead of parents becoming parents and understanding how this thing really works, it's a two-way street, you become fans. And you think because a kid is going to go to a university, all of a sudden that gives you some type of status or prestige. I'm here to tell you it doesn't. The reality is, at the end of the day, when they treat you like a king and queen in that recruiting process and that recruiting trip, the moment that you no longer, the moment you sign your name to that NLI, that treatment moves on to the next person. And in essence, again, I know stories, and if we talk about stories with parents that were in a front row recruiting trips, and when the games came up and they mentioned them and everybody waved their hands, and then literally the very next year when they're freshmen or they're freshmen and their parents are freshmen, they sitting way up in the nosebleed sections. They don't even have access to the actual families that came before them. And that's one of the biggest issues anyway, because at the end of the day, the biggest support system for athletes and parents are athletes and parents. But yet at the end of the day, the way the system is set up, it segregates you literally in regards to asking questions of those that came before you. And the ones that are willing to talk are the ones that usually already on the payroll to do the talking for you, for the actual school, to make everything look good. Those universities don't mind breaking off people here and there to simply basically take the information that I want you to put out there and put it out there. But because you may look like me, have the same skin tone as me, it sounds a lot better. So at the end of the day, you got to learn how to protect yourself. Again, education and power protection. That's what we like to do here at pre-post game, and specifically what the player rep does from there. So that's it. Any questions? Any more questions, again, regarding the NCAA tournament, the JBA, again, an alternative tournament. There's also NBA Junior There's also the Australian League that pays players $78,000 that they don't want to go to college. I'm here to promote, different opportunities and avenues. College is not for everybody, especially when you go to colleges where they're not basically doing certain things to put you in a certain situation to be successful. Your plan in sport and your plan in school, it should be your plan. You don't go to university saying, I want to be a doctor, and all of a sudden after you get there, and they're able to tell you 5 minutes later, well, it doesn't fit in our actual practice schedule. So immediately now you just signed the contract, and now you're stuck in there. And that leads me to my next point regarding the term committable. Committable. I posted on our site, prepostgame.com, and prepostgame on Facebook. Nick Saban admitted to saying that not all athletes' offers are committable. And what he's basically saying, and break it down in layman's terms, that if I was to offer you as a coach a scholarship verbally, that once I offer that and you accept it or you believe that to be true, then literally you go around, you post social media posts, I'm going to Alabama, and the parents saying, thank God they offered me a scholarship, things like that. But you never seen any paperwork. There's never been any official document saying they really offered you a scholarship. But the reason now that they told you that, they don't have to spend another dime, another dollar to sit there to come to your house. They don't have to sit there and spend money on social media, making graphics. They don't have to spend money on you coming on an official visit and paying for your food or your hotel or whatever it may be from there. So literally now you just basically in a waiting pattern. It's almost like being in a flight, you're on standby. And essentially when that school or that coach finds someone else that they feel like is better that they want, then they can tell you or will tell you that they rescinded that offer and it really wasn't true and factual. So once again, when a 66-plus-year-old man who started coaching in 1974 feels like it's okay to basically talk to a kid in the family and lie, and again, term it committable in regards to how you basically go about it and say it's part of the process of recruiting that you're supposed to trust. It's despicable. 2018, that's one of the main reasons why pre-post game was here. At the end of the day, we kind of understand. We know exactly what's going to be said and how it's going to be said. And the bottom line is that, if you're looking for services such as ours, like I said, at the end of the day, you need someone that's actually been through the process. Like you want to phrase that, been through the process, and literally is going to actually help put you in a situation that's best for you. To tell you that we're going to win championships, tell you that we have a bunch of players in the first round, to tell you that we, we're looking to, we got the best facilities in the world. That's great. That's basically really what we call fluff in this business. That's exterior. It's not really something that's going to basically set you apart from anybody else, help set you up for success long term. Talk to me about how many players that came here in a position that I played that graduated, and what did they graduate in? Talk to me about how many players that if they went in the first round, how many of them got to the second contract, how many of them, why they go broke, why they failed drug tests, why are they not coming back, why can none of them get really marketing deals because none of them can really put a sentence together. The reality is, again, at the end of the day, things need to start happening where people that are making these statements like committable and the NCAA and the powers that be hold themselves accountable. I'm sure they're not going to hold the schools accountable because, once again, those coaches, those schools basically make too much money for anybody outside of them, besides the parent and the kid, to hold them accountable. So, and then out of that, the NCAA charges $80 to use his services. At the end of the day, they're not telling you something that literally you can already go read that's online for free, but at the same time, as a person-centered scenario. So, again, if you're looking for support and really to try to figure out what's best for you, you can contact us at prepostgame.com. We provide services to athletes at every level, high school, college, pro, transition, succession planning. We do sports business management and advisory. Like I said, at the end of the day, having a plan and executing that plan while you still can, while you're young, while you have leverage, is the best thing that we can advise you to do pertaining to that. So, again, Nick Saban and Alabama, they dropped to the 7th-ranked recruiting class in 2018 or 17. The lowest has been since 2007 when Mr. Saban arrived at Alabama. Things like that, terms of committable and basically blatantly and admitting to fraudulently advising or speaking to a kid, I only can see that actual number dropping further along because, once again, if you're an athlete, you have talent, it doesn't matter where you go. It matters that you're young, you're healthy, and you basically have talent. If you look at the 2017 NFL draft, the top 10 draft picks, there wasn't one kid that was over the age of 22, not one. So, again, some of those kids might have played 4 years, which is total, that'd be 48 games. Some kids might have played 22 games. Some kids might have played 7 games. Right now is a situation where Shea Patterson, who's a transfer from Ole Miss, that is at Michigan now. If the NCAA grants him the ability to play this year, he might be the first kid that literally can only play 6 games at Ole Miss. So in some projections and some NFL scouting sites have him projected as a first-round pick next year. So the whole thing about saying that a kid needs to get more work and more training and more skills in college, and yet you got players that are getting drafted and making, like I said, $20-30 million without 7 to 8 games in college. Again, it contradicts their whole premise. And once again, there's not only basketball what the JBA is doing this, but there's other leagues such as the XFL that's coming back out, on the AAFL. Again, I think it's American Lions Football League that we're going to be talking about soon. To get some more details on it. It's going to be ran by Bill Polian, who said Lamar Jackson should play wide receiver, but that's neither here nor there at this point. But again, there's other alternatives. So again, if you want to go and you have the talent, at the end of the day, they're going to take you. They're going to play you. It's not about your college alma mater where you went to school at. They need you to be fast, tall, strong, and able to make plays. So once again, study the game, learn the game, understand the game, protect your body, invest in your body. And like I said, you'll go a lot further in sports than you would otherwise going the other way around. Absolutely. Mitch Trubisky, perfect, great point, Mr. Hampton. That Deshaun Watson, for those who don't know, Deshaun Watson, who was at Clemson, who won a national championship for Clemson, he actually played in 2 back-to-back national championship games. He amassed 1,100 yards against Nick Saban's great Alabama defense. He won 1 game and won a national championship. In essence, that allowed Dabo Swinney to get a $56 million raise. And then after that, at the same time, Mitch Trubisky, who only played, like I said, 12 games in North Carolina and literally backed up an African-American quarterback for 3 years, he then now became the 2nd pick in the draft overall. So what people don't understand is in the first round, even though it's great to be drafted in the first round, for a guy that did everything right, graduated in 3 years like Deshaun Watson, for a guy who beat Mitch Trubisky head-to-head, for a guy that won a national championship, only to turn around and be drafted number 13 by Houston when Mitch was drafted number 2. Well, Mitchell Trubisky's salary is literally, his signing bonus. I apologize. His signing bonus is double the entire contract of Deshaun Watson. So again, in essence, Mitch Trubisky's contract is about $29 million over 4 years. Deshaun Watson's contract is about $13 million over 4 years, or $15 million over 4 years. Mitchell Trubisky's signing bonus is like $20 million. So once again, at the end of the day, sports is not a game. It's all business. You got to maximize your opportunity. You got to basically be confident in yourself. Can't let anybody tell you that you know what you can do and try to scare you away from doing things that you basically worked your whole life to do, only to turn around and have someone all of a sudden make the money that you should have been making. And then again, tell you, well, that you trust the process. Doesn't make any sense. So, again, like I said, there's so much going on in this sports scenario. I wanted to talk about the actual NFL and pertaining to their new rules and the committees. And I talked about, the agents and the actual union. So those of you who don't know that the NFL's coaches or owners union or owners meetings are going on this week. And literally right now, a lot of new rules came into place. Like, for example, the catch rule has been changed back to what it was. So it's kind of ironic that if you think about it and you talk about history of sports, and let's take the Patriots, for example. The Patriots, how has these rules and how they've been implemented and how they've been looked at, how has it changed the course of history regarding how we look at people such as Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? Fact of the matter is, when the New England Patriots beat the Oakland Raiders, there's a thing called the Tuck rule that came in place, a rule that no one ever heard of before. To everybody's eye, it was a fumble. Game was over. Raiders were going to the Super Bowl. Done. Here comes the Tuck rule. Tuck rule comes into place. Literally, the Patriots go in there and run. Here we go. 4 years later, somebody looks at the rule and says, you know what? That's not right. It's a fumble. So it's a fumble. But again, you can't take back what happened to the Raiders. You can't take back all the teams now that literally lost to the Patriots during this run, the Super Bowl era run, and the involvement and the development and the growth of the New England Patriots as we know it in the National Football League. So here we go again, the same thing regarding the catch. So Des Bryant a couple of years ago caught a ball. We all thought he caught a ball. Calvin Johnson, we all thought he caught a ball, didn't catch a ball. The catch that Des had would have essentially put them into the Super Bowl, which, again, it might have changed his career, even though he's going through contract situations right now. For those who don't know, the contract situation regarding things like that, making plays like that get you Super Bowl, get you paid big money. And so after 3 or 4 years now, the NFL says Des Bryant's catch was a catch. So it's amazing to me that, again, these rules, this commission, this committee, these people that keep the team to make these rules, a whole bunch of them never even played the game of football before. And that's going to lead me to my next point. When you make a rule, and literally this rule we're talking about now is that if you're going to actually targeting in college, if you talk about NFL players lowering their helmet, that now the NFL has an ability to throw you out the game. What people don't realize and don't understand is, again, I'm going to make the comparison between the NBA and the NFL. So in NBA in 2017, their fines, their infractions, and again, obviously it's not a team sport, it's individuals, but it's 837 individuals that was total fined $3 million. $3 million. And you compare that to the NFL that had 238 infractions in 2017, and their fines were $25 million on the players in a sport where their contracts aren't guaranteed. The coaches are. At the end of the day, the agencies or the players union, if you will, or the agents, when you make the rule about changing this rule to if you hit somebody in the head and Roger Goodell says, well, the owners voted 32-0. Let me know which owner played football. Let me know which one when they made this rule. But besides the fact that the owners never played and they talk about with the coaches, the players had no input in making this rule. And what's going to happen is, regardless of the fact you're telling players that play sports for 10 to 15 years a certain way, and once again, that now you saying it's about player safety, but what's going to happen is the NFL is going to find a way to give these kids money that's not guaranteed and turn around and in a game that's aggressive and basically find a reason to take that money back away from them. It's completely egregious. It's insane. At the same time, we know football is short-lived. There's a lot of players right now in the NFL from the concussion settlement that haven't got paid, that can't get out of their bed, that are sick and dying as we know it. But the fact of the matter is, you're now making more rules to take away more money from these players without having their input in it. Once again, why would you have a union if you're not even involved in making decisions? Who negotiated that? That's all you need to know regarding, again, why players go broke, why they end up in situations they end up in. The people that supposedly have their best interests in mind do not. They never have. The numbers bear it out. Again, in 2011, the CBA changed from what it was when they talk about the player safety movement. By the way, I played 9 years of arena football, 9 years. I like to think that we're speaking right now, and I'm articulating, I'm enunciating, using my vernacular very well. In arena football, there's 300-pound fullbacks, and again, the receivers run at you full speed. They run at you. When they run at you, they put the head down and knock you down. Then the 300-pound fullback swings around, and I got to tackle him. Now, I'm 220 pounds now, but when I was playing, I was about 195 pounds. I was able to survive that and also being on top of the turf, which is on top of ice, which is next to walls, for 9 years. Terrell Owens didn't even want to even do the arena for about 2 weeks after that. So, again, you talk about player safety in football. The fact of the matter is you got to understand that you're going to keep making these rules say about player safety. If player safety since 2011 was supposed to get better, why are the players getting fined even more? Because back in 2011, they might have got fined $9 million, but it's going up. Over the last 3 years before the dancing rules, the players got fined $35 million, $25 million. Then she had $25 million again. There was a little $19 million where it was down for a second, but again, the CBA is coming back up in 2021. I hope and pray that the players and families understand that the players that were getting high or the players that were dancing, that you don't accept that, hey, the NFL says you can dance now, NFL says you can get high now, but turn around and still give up your rights to make money and protect yourself from injury risk and also in your contracts as a trade-off. Doesn't make any sense. Now, regarding to Kirk Cousins' contract, who is now guaranteed 3 years, $84 million guaranteed with, in essence, a chance to make $90 million. The reason why players have not actually really bought in like we've been talking about in advising fees is because at the end of the day, people that are around them that are technically or believed to be on their best interest use terms such as long-term and security. Long-term and security does not equal to non-guarantee. Security means guarantee. In essence of football terms, and I mentioned last week, the difference between a fully guaranteed contract versus a guaranteed contract is two different things. Huge. But from a player who don't understand the business and his agent, who is going to likely be in this business a lot longer than that player, when he says, hey, your contract is guaranteed if you don't come to work late, your contract is guaranteed if you basically make all, you rep out 225 20 times for the next 3 years, your contract is guaranteed if you basically show up with a smile on your face, and you never have any issues. Other than that, it's not guaranteed. Kirk Cousins' fully guaranteed contract is 3 years, $84 million. But how the NFL works, again, is about leverage. Kirk used his leverage when he was young. End of the day, 4,000 passing yards and 30 touchdowns is 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Everything else, you're talking about a business. How do you do business in corporate America? You basically put your resume out there. Your resume is your number. So, again, I talk about game planning. Kirk Cousins happened to be a quarterback. How these things hurt other players, that, and in particular minorities, if you will, or even offensive linemen, is that you can be game plan out of being successful. And I mean game plan. If you take Victor Cruz out of the New York Giants, Victor Cruz is a fan favorite. Everybody loves Victor in New York. However, if the coach's game plan comes in and say, hey, we need to look at the other guy on the other side and make sure we got a good investment, all of a sudden Victor could be wide open. They don't throw him the ball. Then the media says Victor doesn't have it anymore. And that just snowballs. Then at the end of the day, you take a defensive lineman or a linebacker standpoint. Linebacker was playing what they call a 3-down linebacker. 3 downs mean you get 3 chances to make opportunities to make numbers. So, again, in your contract, it might say you get $2 million guaranteed if you make 100 tackles this year. Well, at the end of the day, the last 3 years when that contract was done, you was a 3-down linebacker. The business side of the NFL now says, okay, he's going to go over to the personnel side of the NFL, and the coach said he's going to be a 2-down linebacker now. We need to look at this other rookie. So now when the season's over, you got 65 tackles. You don't get your bonus. You go up to the coach and the team and GM and say, why didn't I get paid? And they'll tell you that, well, you didn't perform as you once did. And no fault of yours. You know whose fault that is? It's the person that put that contract in front of your face that you hired to advise you, and they did not advise you really what was in that contract. But the relationship between that agency and that actual team moves forward. Again, as you get older and you get injured and you don't produce, you'll be moved out. And again, at the same time, you got a group of kids in the NCAA that's coming up that have no clue about this stuff, is about to fall in line the same exact way. So at the same time, the bonuses, the actual 17 games played, again, players are warriors mentally, and they're told to believe that they cannot be defeated, they're unstoppable, and we believe that with all our might and all our heart. But what they don't realize is that literally everybody else is around them that are making decisions unbeknown to them, without their input. They're making decisions that's beneficial to them. And at the end of the day, I get sick and tired of hearing ownership groups or even commissioners of leagues talk as players as if they are children or second-rate, animals. When we say our players, like, you don't own anybody over here. Without these actual players, you don't even have a job. Your commissioner, your title, none of that stuff exists. None of it. Owners of what? Like football. These guys never played football before. These guys are bringing in billions of dollars. Billions. They're taking all the risk with their bodies and their minds. At the end of the day, people keep ignoring the fact because, once again, those that are basically making the decisions are making them to keep the players uneducated, unprotected, and unknowledgeable about what's what. Like I said, I like to think that I'm speaking well as we talk now, but once again, I played the game 9+ years as a pro. 600+ tackles. So, again, you want to call it CTE, I probably have CTE too. But what I don't have is that I didn't stop thinking and using my mind to basically put myself in a situation to advocate, educate, and protect players and their families and their best interests. So, again, you lose what you have when you never use it, and that's what's going on right now. The players and the families are basically trusting the process, not knowing what it consists of, and then, like I said, again, using terms such as God's plan when somebody else hears it, and then it becomes, crazy in that scenario. Perfect case in point again. Whether it's Ndamukong Suh, who signed a 6-year deal with Miami, or Dez Bryant, both was represented by Rock Nation, by the way. Dez Bryant asked to take a pay cut. Dez doesn't want to take a pay cut. The reality is that the last time Dez got his contract, the first day he got his contract, Dez was out there fighting somebody in spring ball. All of that stuff, like I said years ago, is going to be used against him now. You're a professional, on and off the field. And so now Dez doesn't take a pay cut from Dallas. He ends up in the market value. And then other teams are going to say, well, hey, Dez, you didn't produce like you once did. Is that Dez's fault? Partially. Partially because he didn't realize what was going to happen before it actually happened. Same thing with Ndamukong Suh. How do you go from signing a 6-year deal and then you get cut from Miami, but then you turn around and sign a 1-year deal? He finally figured it out. 1 year's $14 million is real money versus things such as 6 years, $125 million with $25 million fully guaranteed. Again, 1 year. Football is like that anyway. The contracts aren't guaranteed, so if you get injured, they're going to cut you anyway. So what's the sense of literally signing on for 6 years knowing that there's no loyalty whatsoever? Look at the New York Giants right now, saying they're not shopping Odell Beckham, but yet literally everybody talking about how the Rams are offering this, offering that. Teams look at players as what they are, profit margins, not assets. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into the business world right now, but profit margins, you can have them, you can lose them. What can Odell get for me? Can they catch like Odell? Can they run like Odell? Can they jump like Odell? No. Can they get more for Odell? They're going to let Odell be Odell, and they go get what they can out of him, and they're going to move on. Sports is not a game. It's all business. It's a short-lived business. At the end of the day, the families of the athletes need to understand that that's what's going on from there. Coaches changes. So I got the NFL out the way, but going back to college real quick, I was mentioning about the coach from Illinois that's going to leave, but the coach from Xavier that's left that took the Louisville job. And once again, it doesn't matter. Louisville men's basketball, each scholarship player brings in $13 million a year to the university. The ones on scholarship. Xavier is a great program. The reason, again, that kid, that guy, that coach, Mr. Mack, I believe his name is, has a job now at Louisville is because of those kids at Xavier. I mean, he's about to get paid more money. We got the NCAA continues to say that the kids shouldn't be able to transfer. And once again, this is a simple law of physics. If you are providing a service, and I'm taking them, and my service is to take the ball, throw it in the hoop, and then you can come in and watch me do that and pay a ticket and buy a T-shirt and drink a beer and pay for parking pass, cheer and scream my name, wear the jersey that looks like I'm wearing. At the end of the day, I am providing a service to you. That's what jobs are. That's what corporate America is. End of the day, like I mentioned before about the NFL making rules regarding the persons that without them, they will have no revenue. Same thing. Have you ever asked the player or his family, do they want the free education that they're being offered? Once again, we're talking about people that are 15, 16, 17, all the way up in their 30s. You making decisions for them. At the end of the day, we know why that you continue to make decisions for them. We know why that the players continue to not really stand up for themselves. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these players and families come from certain places where they never had much before. You're talking about players now that's about to get drafted, and their parents never had a mortgage, never had to pay property tax, don't know what estate planning is. So at the end of the day, they are all fearful for what comes ahead when I having a check. But it's still not right. And like I said, I implore other people that claim to be in the best interest of these athletes to start stepping up and doing some things differently. Because if you don't, like I said, at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of upset people in the near future. Pre-Post Game created the first sports business management curriculum online to educate and empower, protect your best interests, to teach you things in words. I even created a dictionary, like with things such as runner or mediation or financial advisement or CPA, certified public accountant, financial literacy. What is a financial advisor? What's a FINRA check? What's, like I said again, what's a Series 6, a Series 7? All the things that, again, as you go to college, you're supposed to get educated as you get your millions, the things that people do every day in corporate America. You have no idea. So now at the end of the day, you can actually go online and buy that experience, that module, and educate yourself. You can also, like I said, take up our service, and we can teach you on a one-on-one basis to basically help educate you in those scenarios. So, like I said again, it's a crazy world of sports that we live in. But like I said, every situation right now, whether it's the NCAA, the draft, the NBA draft, everybody looking to get paid off the efforts of the actual player. That was, and will always be the matter of fact. It always will be. And because it's always going to be that way, it's up to the players and their families to start basically protecting themselves with knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And in the day, you can play the game all day long, but if you are an athlete that literally is looking to gain a monetary value, say in the millions, you can't be just unprofessional enough to go jeopardize that to do something that doesn't make any sense. For example, some of your contracts as the pros say you can't roller skate or ice skate or ride a motorcycle, but yet you do it anyway and you fall. Then you just gave up, forgo your whole contract. You can't do that. Again, character development, business management, business services. Again, it's a gift and a curse of being a highly profile athlete in America today. Because the moment somebody know that you can shoot a jump shot and somebody know that you can actually run a ball, they all of a sudden want to position themselves to be your best friend, your best advisor. They know somebody. They can do this, they can do that. That's what sports trafficking is. At the end of the day, once you leave college, the fact of the matter is everything that you were responsible for, whether it's getting up in the morning, paying bills, transitioning properly, you have no idea what goes with it. And everybody around you at that time that, was looking to get notoriety or check off of what you do, now you still got to figure that stuff out yourself. That's just something that at the end of the day is a gift and a curse. You got to understand, you got to put your best foot forward in it, and you got to move forward in that scenario. So, again, we're about to shut it down a little bit, but like I said, again, I want to let everybody know that this show, again, is presented by, the African-American athlete, Mr. Ricky Hampton and Michael Robinson. You can check them out on Tuesdays from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they cover a lot of things regarding African-American sports and history to remind people of what it was and what it is, and to be proud of where they came from and understand where they're trying to go today. Specifically, why I wanted to join this team and this partnership is because at the end of the day, I understand how much of a business that this is. And so even with all the things that are going on that we talk about in this show, to remind people of the great history of sports that we had, the fact of the matter is there's something else that's going on in this scenario. When you have 15-year-old kids and 16-year-old kids that literally is going to be multimillionaires, 10, 15, 20 millionaires in literally less than 3 or 4 years, in foreign countries, those kids will be up for ransom. And in essence, this is what's going on today in high school, showcase, and the AEU, with the FBI investigations. Once again, what happened with the FBI and the investigation of the NCAA is not a real crime. The crime is that the people that basically took the money to coerce children, no different than human trafficking and sex trafficking, to make a decision is what's wrong. If Phil Knight from Nike wants to pay a kid $25, $30, $40, $50,000 to wear a sneaker, I can assure you today, Phil Knight could care less if the NCAA don't want him to play for their college. That ain't his problem. That's not his problem. Phil Knight wants to figure out, as being an older Caucasian male, how can I relate? How can I still get business with these young kids that basically feed my family and my kids' family and their kids' family? So I'm the biggest advocate. I'm going to be an advocate of the ones for, like I said, the JBA, the NBA junior, the the Australian League, $78,000 to go overseas before you go get drafted. Once again, if you're one of those top 64 kids and you're going anyway, and for those that say, oh, we don't know if he's going to go or not, the bottom line is this. If he has an opportunity to be compensated, he can go back and get his education when he wants to get it. The facts is this again. If you're a kid right now in the NCAA and you're on a full scholarship and you amass 90-plus credits through the NCAA, you can come back and get your degree when you want to. And the fact of the matter is you can actually go to a different school. You can finish school online. So, again, Mr. Hampton, obviously, say, why does the NCAA strict on football and basketball, not baseball and hockey? Well, that's a real simple equation. Because the revenue, the money that comes through football and basketball is what people pay for. Again, NCAA has a committee, and this is a joke anyway. Not a joke because of the kids who are doing their best. They have a committee of kids that's basically on their panel. And, again, out of the 80 people, I believe it's about 18 that's filled with NCAA players. Do you not know not one of those kids are either on a basketball or football team? They're on teams that represent these actual programs or represent this actual committee that are on sports that literally wouldn't be around if the football team wasn't good or the basketball team wasn't good. So essentially, you have people voting on behalf of the players who don't know what's going on with those players that generate all the revenue. Now, I'll take that back. There is one young man, I believe, at Northwestern that plays on the football team. One. But the fact of the matter is, it's about money. If it wasn't for football and basketball, again, and Mark Emmert says, well, you know what, if you don't want to come to college and make money, then you should go somewhere else. Well, if that's the case, then why is Mr. Emmert making $10 million in a 501c3, not-for-profit organization? I don't know. What has he ever done directly for these athletes? And for those people that are saying that you get, free education and world-class training and all this other stuff. Listen, stop. You've never done it. You don't know what you're talking about. Not only have I lived it, but I still involved with it every single day of the week. It's not world-class training facilities. I can go to, let's take a supermarket, for example. I can go to Harris Teeter or Wegmans. Yes, it's a nice layout. End of the day, it's a nice layout regardless. It's not going to make me no better as a person if I eat the tomatoes from Wegmans versus Harris Teeter versus somebody else. It's about the person that's going there that's making it world-class. If they wasn't there generating the revenue, you wouldn't have any of it. The chicken and the egg. But this one is really simple. This is really simple. So again, did you ask the players, do they want world-class or first-rate education? So they can be the best gym teacher in the world. So they can be the best bouncer in the world. So they can be the best, what's that guy? GA and trainer in the world. I advocate for these players and these families because in 2018, at the end of the day, I know kids and I know families, I know athletes that are no longer playing, that are distraught, that are struggling with depression, struggling with their bills, struggling with this, what they wake up to do every day in life and not understanding why, because they trusted the process. Those same people that was in their face screaming about how much they care about them, they don't even return their phone calls anymore. They calling me. I'm a businessman, but at the time I do more counseling and more counseling of people and families because at the end of the day, the tears and the anger that they had with some of these people regarding these universities, which we're going to continue to start to put out there day in and day out. Pre-post game doesn't take kickbacks or referrals. We know that's why people are wondering right now, how can he say what he say? I work for the players and the family's best interest, and theirs alone. The kickbacks and the referrals. Why a kid is going to go to a school in another region when basically you don't see any reason why he would go there. There are people that's running around in the pro industries that getting kickbacks from agents. There are girls that are bots and cam girls that are in these young men's social media pages right now. Now, who sent them? It could be the NCAA. It could be the NFL. It could be the NBA. Trying to trap these kids. To get them to say and do something that literally before the draft day, like we know, whether it's Laramie Tunsil or anybody else, they can post that stuff out there, cost them millions of dollars. Not on our watch, though. We know who you are. We know where they are. That's why our clients don't have those issues. So, again, we take it in one day at a time, but at the same time, we got to continue to understand that, look, you are your own person in this business. And because you're 15, again, you are a professional athlete. If somebody wants you to come play for their AAU team, you are a professional. You have to learn how to interview people professionally. You got to learn how to take in information professionally. You have to learn how to vet what they're saying to you professionally. Because if you don't learn it now, you're never going to learn it. And the people that's going to still be around are going to be there to take advantage of that. We pray and we work and we provide service to ensure that it doesn't. But like I said, we're this one company. Hopefully that we got others that will start to grow. And some of these attorneys that are running around and some of these insurance providers that are running around and that will look themselves in the mirror and realize without these athletes, you don't have a job. You don't have a purpose in the business that you're in, sports business that it is. So, like I said again, my name is Robert T. Green. I'm the CEO of Pre-Post Game. I'm also known as the Players Rep. You can find me at the Players Rep 1 on Instagram, the Players Rep 1, and follow me on Twitter. You can also find me here on the Players Rep in general. Every Wednesday we're going to do live 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. interactive as people continue to understand what's going on in the sports business. I hope that, again, that I educate and empower, protect you in your thought process. Next time you turn on the TV and watch a game and you see certain things happening, people were jumping up and down crazy about how Michigan didn't foul with 4.5 seconds left. Once again, it's about education, right? No, everybody wants to bet on these athletes. So it's more than that. It's a question. Explain how the sneaker companies direct recruits to sign at certain schools. Okay. Well, again, it's not so – you could say direct, but we use the term funnel. And, again, for a lot of times these AAU schools that or teams in high school or lower from different areas, whether it's Adidas, Nikes, or things like that, they have what you call these AAU coaches that have been there for a while. And wherever these kids are sponsored by, and once again, if a kid gets a pair of sneakers and he's not in the NCAA yet, then literally, technically, he's not under their jurisdiction or rules. So if a kid goes and plays for a team that's wearing Adidas and Nike as a freshman in high school or an 8th grader, 9th grader, the likelihood of this kid going to play for some other school that wears a different sneaker is slim to none. That kid is expected and going to be pushed and going to be basically taught by everybody around him in that circle that his best interest is to go to that same exact school to wear that shoes. And in return, that exact person that basically helped make that decision, when we talk about sports trafficking, is now going to basically benefit from that from a monetary value. That's part of the reason why the FBI investigation happened. Because once again, you can say that, oh, I'm a mentor and I just bought this kid a pair of shoes and I did this to help this kid out. The fact of the matter is, that's not how it goes. And at the end of the day, really helping the kid out is explaining to the kid, to the family, exactly what I'm doing right now. So you don't get caught up in an investigation. So at the end of the day, if you didn't take money from somebody, the fact of the matter is, if you sat down with dinner with somebody, not knowing who you sitting down with dinner with, they might have took money on your behalf and not know it based on somebody you trusted. That's what sports trafficking is again. So again, it's not academic at all. It's all about the money. It's all about basically being able to market and brand the future. And again, when it comes to athletes who come from areas that sometimes not the greatest in the world, the only way you really can relate to them is by actually using somebody that looks like them or putting something in place where they want to achieve certain things based on what they see on TV. And unfortunately, again, by doing that, that term trusted process makes it too easy to trap these kids going forward. So, like I said, again, at the end of the day, we're here for you guys. You can check Mr. Hampton out, like I said, again, on Tuesday nights from 10 to 11 Eastern with Mr. Michael Robertson. You can always come back to the African American Athletes. Make sure you turn your notifications on. Once again, next week, I'm going to go into certain things and talk about intellectual property, also known as IP, with everything that's going on, whether it's sneakers or the marketing terms or branding, people like Odell with their hair and things like that. From an athlete and a business perspective, it's never too early to start understanding who your IP is and how to protect that. I mentioned Sister Jean earlier. The moment she gave the NCAA the rights to use her likeness and image, they gave the whole world the opportunity to use her rights and image. And they've been using it to make money off of a 95-year-old woman. But yet, it's the players that's driving the revenue. It's the players that are playing this upcoming game. It's the players that are the reason that this coach is about to leave and get millions of dollars. My name is Robert T. Green. I'm the CEO of Pre-Post Game. I appreciate you guys. Check us out again. And we look forward to talking to you guys next week. God bless.